This is the May 12th, 2021 meeting of the Hanson Community Preservation Committee. A quorum of our committee is in attendance this evening. Welcome back, everyone. We last met in early April for a meeting in anticipation of Springtown meeting. So the purpose of tonight's meeting will hopefully be to very briefly catch up on existing projects. Quick commentary on the Springtown meeting that just passed by, and should have you out of here in a very short amount of time. So first, in terms of after call to order for my update, we did have one article at the Springtown meeting, which was the annual article allocating estimated funds in each of the major classifications, which is an annual housekeeping article. I'll ask Phil later in the agenda to talk about the Crystal Springs application that we reviewed and that I believe is going to be recommended to go to town meeting in the fall. In terms of other, I don't have any other specific updates. There hasn't been a lot of activity in terms of financials at this point. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes from March 10th and April 1st. Without objection, I'll take one motion for both sets of minutes.
I so move.
Motion by Patty.
Second.
And second by Diane. Any discussion on those minutes? Thank you. Hearing none, I'll just call the roll here. Karen?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Thank you. Diane?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm also a yes, so unanimous for that, Shirley. Thank you. Under old business, we can go through the existing projects if there are any updates. And I'll take updates on any of the following: North End Cabins, Bonnie House, Thomas Mill, Boterry, Plymouth County Park Engineering Plan, Sleeper Preserve, the PCH Trail Grant, the historical markers. Phil, you certainly provide us with monthly updates more than most of us, so I'll defer to you if you'd like to take any of those in a particular order.
Well, I can certainly take them in the order that they're listed, although there's a couple of items that aren't mine that come ahead, whatever your pleasure may be.
Without objection, I would leave it with you for fewer baton passings and let you work on the ones you have.
Sure. I'll start with the Thomas Mill conservation restriction. Our conservation staff is awaiting a quote for the engineering site drawing, which we identified quite some time ago as being necessary for the both the Wildlands Trust and the state for the CR monitoring requirements. I do have a question. I am trying to recall, and should have paper somewhere, how much we have left on that particular line item, so that we may hopefully pay for those engineering services and match it up with the quote and be able to conclude this in the near future.
Well, I do not have that
question out there.
Yes, thank you. I do not have the paper in front of me, but my recollection puts it at about $8,000 to $9,000, I believe, is still on that line for that project.
Okay, if it's in that ballpark, I think that would be more than adequate. So we're confident about that. But again, we're awaiting the definitive quote. And with our new procurement agent, we want to make sure they're fully aware of our process. It'll be maybe good practice for them to see how the CPC projects go around here. After that, the Boterry Field Town Forest project, we were waiting for the signs for the Boterry Field to go up. I have observed it is up. Eric, you may have commented about that. It looks good.
Yes, it was. They put it up actually a couple months ago, so that is complete finally.
Yeah, in my opinion, unless Eric or anyone feels otherwise, this project is now complete. If there's no outstanding bills that we were overlooking, I'm not aware of any.
I agree.
What I'll do is I'll ask Shirley to make a note that at our June meeting, just so it can be reflected on the agenda, we will put a vote to close out this project, and we will the motion will be to return the funds to the locations wherever the leftover money is. So that's great news, and thank you both for working on that. And we'll close that out next month.
Moving along then, the PCH Park Engineering Plan, the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee has been unable to meet for a number of months, which is unfortunate, but we now are just about ready to recommence meeting, and we believe this project will recommence its momentum. We still, on the sidelines, are still awaiting for one more quote on the actual trail construction work, so we have not been exactly wasting our time, but we expect to have something substantive on that very, very soon. And the next thing, the Sleeper Preserve project, we have some good news there. It's not the ideal good news, but it's still very good news. We had been experiencing very, very slow progress on the part of the probate court that's working with the landowner to confirm clear title to each part of that property. That process is still going slowly, though there's signs it may be accelerating. The good news I have to report is that the state extended by 1 year the deadline for completing the project. We were originally looking at an expectation that we would complete the acquisition of the Sleeper Preserve by June 30th of this year. That's now been extended to June 30th, 2022. So the pressure is off, but given our experience with slowness of other things, we still have a foot on the accelerator to try to get it done ASAP. But we no longer, at this point, feel a risk of losing our state grant money on that. So that, I hope, is good news to all.
That's good.
Great, Phil. Thank you.
Yeah. And last thing, let's see, maybe I took this out of order. Oh, the PCH Trail Grant Match. Actually, I misspoke a little bit. The Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee is waiting for quotes on the trail work, which the trail grant relates to. As far as our funding of the park engineering plan, that work, I don't have any updates. The chair of our committee, Mr. Ellis, has been pursuing that. But I know that, again, the committee is about to recommence regular meetings, and all of those park and property-related things will, I think, recommence. I don't have anything new, though, today on it.
Thank you, Phil. And so I appreciate you taking those as a bundle, and I'll go back to the top. Diane, anything on the cabins?
We're almost done, and we did get another contractor in to look at doing the footings and things like that are really going to take a bulk of the rest of the money. So that should be happening soon. But we have to get another quote because the price he quoted us before to do it is changed since the price of lumber and everything has changed.
Mhm.
Certainly,
No.
those supply costs have gone up unbelievably.
I know, it's kind of killing me. But we have some cabins in the north end that are going to be that need to, be stabilized. So we're working on it. I'm going to get an update. Our next meeting is Monday,
Very good.
and it's
Thank
on the
you.
agenda. Yep.
Thanks, Diane. No update for Bonnie House at this point. There is still some open funds for Bonnie House, and I think one goal we can set for ourselves, and also talking with Historical Commission, will be to see if we can try to close that project out, maybe through some sort of procurement for some electrical and carpentry services to fulfill the original intent of that article. And that's something that we'll continue to keep on our agenda for updates. And Teresa, I also know that if you wouldn't mind just briefly on the historical markers, which is kind of a new project on our list, and I'll give you an opportunity to just inform the committee on how things are going there.
Sure. So Tom and I were talking about this recently. We got a little setback in terms of I had planned it out with the last highway department director. So we need to start again on that. The biggest holdup is basically finalizing the language and getting the right photos. Karen has offered to help, and Karen, I haven't forgot that, and hopefully we can coordinate soon. The other thought that I had and was talking with Tom is to see if the library would also help us. So maybe a team could be Karen and a library person as well as myself to kind of finalize the marker language. So it's still on our radar, still working on it, and hopefully get it done this year.
That's great. Thanks, Teresa. And if we do find that there are members of the committee that might be interested in assisting with any of these projects, to the extent that we find members of our committee, maybe asking for an extra set of hands or another set of eyes, it might be something to consider as we go into the summer months, that as opposed to a monthly meeting, maybe there's a break off of the committee, and there are project specific activities that we do going into the summer. I mean, we can't forecast, I can't forecast what say a fall town meeting would look like, but I'm not seeing anything immediately right now. We'll continue to have meetings, but if there's interest of committee members, and I appreciate, Karen, you assisting on this, that'll be a big help. So thank you for that.
If I could just say something about it,
Please, Karen, yes.
we've done some of the research, but there's a few different documents out there, and some of the research was a little conflicting, so it was hard to know what information we could actually use, because there wasn't multiple sources that confirmed one another.
Understood. Understood. Thank you. If there's something else we as a committee can do to review anything, I'm sure we can bring it to a regular meeting, or we could certainly offer our assistance.
I think Teresa's idea of getting some help from the library and maybe somebody from the Historical Society would be great.
Thank you.
The other thought, sorry, I just
Teresa, please.
I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry, I'm in a lobby.
No, can hear you fine.
Okay, is if anybody has any thoughts of maybe somebody who doesn't have time to sit on a committee or a commission or something, but is interested in historical spots in town, if you know of anybody who likes to write or maybe want to involved in the project, it would be helpful to get volunteers to take on individual markers to make sure that the research is done correctly too. So just if committee members can think of, keep that in mind if you can think of somebody who might be interested in helping out with the project.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, that concludes the updates. The next item on the agenda is to take a vote to close out any remaining funds from the housing production plan. So I'd entertain a motion to close out the remaining funds and return them to the original funding source.
I so move.
Patty, motion. Second.
Second by Phil.
Thank you, Phil. Any discussion? I want to thank Teresa for all her work to bring this to reality. So thank you for that, Teresa. And I'll call the roll on the vote. Karen?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Teresa?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Thank you. I saw the yes, multitasking there. Patty?
Thank you.
Yes, Patty?
Yes.
Thank you, Phil.
Yes.
And I'm also yes. Thank you very much. The next item under old business, just as a memory aid for me to just mention that if you, we had talked about hopefully in better times having a public forum in the fall of this calendar year. And that part of the discussions in a forum would include our responsibilities as a committee to look over the community preservation plan itself. We had a little discussion a couple of months ago. So this is just a reminder that if you haven't looked at our 2016 plan, the last time we had funded an outside entity to assist us, we don't have to have a fancy plan every year, but we do have a responsibility to update it and to refocus priorities. So what I would like to be able to do, looking down the road, is to have this take a more prominent place on our committee agendas and give folks opportunities to weigh in on different priorities for the plan. Do we have an interest in resurveying the community in the hopes that a public forum in the fall would also be a data source that we could use? So I think that if we have a revised community preservation plan by the end of this calendar year, we will have fulfilled what we should be doing on an annual basis and by us reviewing our existing projects, obviously that, I think that's part and parcel, but this kind of does it's almost like we're just kind of doing a review and a reflection on what we put in the plan, what did the citizens of the town say was important in relation to community preservation a few years ago, and what would be the interest of the committee to make revisions to that. So if you haven't had the chance to look, it is on our website. We surely can definitely send you a link or send you a PDF of that. And even if it's just a few minutes of review, when we put it on an agenda, perhaps late summer, early fall, it'll be helpful for all of us. And the last item under old business, Phil, I'll turn it back over to you. Could you just bring the committee up to date regarding Crystal Spring project?
Sure. The Board of Selectmen declined to place the item on the May town meeting warrant primarily because the owner has not yet submitted any purchase and sales agreement to the town. We had expected that would happen in April. It actually did not happen. Reasons not fully known to the town. So even though we were prepared, the legal opportunity to present a matching offer did not occur. And rather than have any awkwardness at town meeting, it was not placed on the warrant. But the Conservation Commission and the Water Commissioners and the Board of Selectmen continue to monitor the overall situation. We feel that there's still going to be an opportunity there, and that we are generally prepared to likely readdress this prior to the October town meeting. So that's where we stand right now. We're waiting for more developments and information from the property owners.
That's great, Phil. So my sense of having listened to your update is that this committee has approved this application. It's kind of in a holding pattern for now, but the Board of Selectmen could act and place it on a future warrant, perhaps as early as this fall. And unless there's a request from the authors of this application to amend the application, I don't think this committee needs to review it further. And so ultimately it could simply be delayed and eventually brought in front of the town residents at a fall town meeting at the next, that would be the next opportunity. But at this point, no guarantees, but that could be the next likely move.
Right. I do think that there's always the possibility that we might need to slightly amend what we prepared, but we'll know as we go forward whether that is or is not necessary. So, yes.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for under old business? Any of the projects we've talked about?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
And Mark,
Patty.
you said something about a bonding capacity. Are you still researching that? Are you going to
Yes.
bring it to us in the future?
Yes, I think that's, thank you for bringing that back up. Yes, we do have some good research that we've talked to Todd Hassett at Town Hall about. And I think that actually would dovetail quite nicely with conversations about our overall plan. And just a 30-second summary is, we all believe that there are multiple competing needs for scarce dollars in town, and community preservation dollars certainly. The only way that those funds can get used for any projects is through a recommendation of this committee. It's got to come from this committee to the residents at a town meeting. And so because the future forecasting of projects perhaps involving housing or recreation or, all of the above from the permissible categories, because that is so important, having this committee aware of the town's bonding capacity, because you can bond against future local tax receipts from CPA funding. So to know we could certainly run a report that says we've got this much money in the various accounts. That's a pretty easy thing. But it would be important to know that if we were to borrow against future money, what would that potentially be, making a certain assumption? Like if we know we get, I'll make this up, if we get $100,000 every year, that would allow us to project out potential bonding. Because I would eventually see a whole long list of really important projects and a much shorter and a much smaller bag of money to match up to those projects. And what I would want to have us as a committee avoid, without having all the puzzle pieces face up, would be, here's our potential capacity for how we can support various projects. And then here's a priority list versus us taking on one project at a time every 3 or 4 months, a couple times a year. I would feel better knowing that there was an overarching plan that multiple stakeholders were able to weigh in on. So that we're not saying that recreation is more important than housing is more important than open space, et cetera. So so thank you for bringing that up, Patty. I would say
You're
to you
welcome.
that when we can get to that conversation about planning, it would dovetail nicely, and it would be nice to actually have that included in any document that we produce for any reader, I think, to see that, oh, these are some things that potentially could come down the pike. There are some estimated price tags to that. What is our ability for community preservation to support these projects? Some of these projects, of course, are going to need matching funds. They might need money well above what CPA can provide, but it's good that everybody knows what our capacity is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good plan.
Great. Moving on to new business. Is there any new business for members of the committee? Okay, great. Then all we have left is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Patty,
Second,
second by Phil. Any discussion? Hearing none. Karen,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
You sure, Diane? You sure you don't want to hang around? No? Okay, okay. Patty,
Yes.
Phil.
yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes as well. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you at
Thank
our
you.
meeting, second Wednesday in June.